Alright guys, welcome back. I decided that I was going to do a disassembly video on this particular rifle because it's not as straightforward as most designs as far as the generic designs out there like AR, AK, and even some of the specialized designs like the SCARs and stuff like that. So, I decided to do this video mainly because I looked for disassembly videos online and they all pretty much suck. So, here we go. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and lock our action to the rear. The video from Ratworks, which was the developer of this rifle, has one out there, but it does kind of suck. So they tell you to just kind of pull back slightly on your action, and realistically, it's far more effective on you because we don't have three hands to just simply lock the action to the rear. Very MP5 like. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and focus our attention on this little button here. This button goes into this little channel, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to just go ahead and push on that. And as we push on it, and it goes into its little recess, we're going to go ahead and pull the barrel this way. And it comes right out. And before we do anything else, I'm just going to relieve the tension on a bolt here. So next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take off this gas block and piston. So that is kind of a pain in the ass, but realistically all it is you take the cap on this gas block here and you just pull it this way. Once you pull it this way, you take the little channel that's out here and you basically make it flush with a gas block lock, it looks like, on that freaking barrel. So you just kind of pull it until it's lined up with it and it comes right out of there. Once it comes out of there, you'll see your short stroke piston in there. And what I like to do is I'll look at it damn near flush with its little recess there. I'll take a set of needle nose pliers and I'll just push on it. And sometimes if you shoot these things a lot, they'll just kind of try and fossilize themselves in there, so you might have to give it a good push. But once it starts to go, it'll go all the way because it is held under a spring, and that's what your piston looks like. So now that that's taken apart and put aside with your barrel, we're going to go ahead and work on the action and the moving parts and all that good jazz. So the next thing that we're going to go ahead and do here is we're going to take the upper receiver, we're going to pull back on it slightly, and we're going to take this button here and we're going to push on it. Now let me work this camera so that you can see this being done. Where's the crap? And I'm just going to go ahead and pull back on that receiver like I said. I'm going to pull back on that receiver and I'm just going to find something that I can jab it with. Older guns or more used guns will be easier to do this for, but on newer guns you're going to have this issue. So you just push that all the way through, and once you push that all the way through, you can feel it under spring tension, your upper receiver just coming loose. So let's go ahead and pull that loose and it comes off as an entire unit. Now you can get to your star chamber and your bore and whatnot. Well, not even really your bore, just your star chamber and the locking lugs for your barrel. From there, your charging handle operating rod and your piston operating rod are all part of one individual unit that's attached to your bolt and carrier. So those just come out as a unit. What we're going to do from here is we're going to disassemble the bolt itself. Now, the first thing that you want to pay attention to is your firing pin, and that is what this is back here. Okay. Ratworks says that you can do this with your hands or with your fingers. But on a fairly new gun, and this is a fairly new gun, it is kind of a giant pain in the ass, and there isn't much room for your fingers to maneuver under this. Now, why does this matter? This matters because your firing pin is sitting in a very small channel, and it's locked itself into place. So what I do is that I take a pair of pliers and just rotate it, and just kind of play with it a little bit, pushing on it a little bit, until you can feel it start to rotate out. When it starts to rotate out, you'll see that little cross, and you can see that it fits into that channel that's under it. And it's spring loaded, so you do kind of want to hang on to it so it doesn't shoot across the freaking room, which in any case it probably won't. You just don't want it to surprise you. So that firing pin comes out. Next thing that you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and you're going to push on your cam pin here, because it is not held in place with a pin like an AR bolt is. But what you want to do is that when you push down on your cam pin, which is this right here, you want to hang on to this bolt because this is under spring tension, and it is actually going to try to shoot across the room. So you just push down on it slightly until you feel the bolt start to come out, and then from there you just kind of let it go. Now a bunch of crap just fell off of this, and I'm going to go into that here in a second. But this is on a cam pin sleeve, basically. And that comes separate from the bolt too. The bolt has a pin that connects the extractor to it. And really honestly, I don't really clean extractors until about every grand or so. But if you want to pull it out every time you shoot and clean it, you just push that straight pin out this way. And you can see that it just kind of comes out the other side. And this is under a little bit of spring tension too, so you just want to hang on to it, and when that pin falls out, just ease off of the extractor. These two parts just kind of fell out of there also. This was the spring and plunger that bolt was under, and that fits into the front end of the gun here, or not the gun, the bolt carrier, and you can see a little channel that's carved out for it. So this will come into play when we reassemble this rifle, and so will this. This was what was hanging onto your firing pin earlier. Okay. So we're not done yet. What we still have to do is pull the trigger pack on it. And this isn't necessarily something that you have to do every time, but it is a nice thing to be able to pull out and dust off every once in a while. So we're going to go over that. What you're basically doing here is you're pushing on this button that's sitting right here, and it's very easy to see. And this QD sling mount is affixed to the takedown pin for it. So just push down so that the little locking arms can back off of that pin, and you just pull on the pin. Once the pin is out, the butt pad comes out. Push on this button that looks kind of like a reverse ping pong paddle for AR, and the trigger pack comes out. Okay, so that is the complete disassembly, or the complete field strip of an AUG type rifle. And this is their STG 5.56 that takes the fucking Steyr AUG mags. So this has the bolt release and everything else. This is pretty much the closest you can get to a military Steyr AUG that I know of anyway. So now we're going to go ahead and reassemble the thing, because there are some nuances to reassembling the thing. I'm going to go ahead and shift back to close focus, and we're going to go ahead and do this. First thing I really want to do is I just want to go in reverse order. So I'm just going to push down on that little reverse ping pong paddle. Make sure that the trigger pack sits on that shelf like it's supposed to, and just kind of slot it into place. From there is a little tab on that butt pad, so you want it to go into the little recess that it looks like it's supposed to go into. And then from there you're going to push on that button again, backing off those locking sleeves basically from the takedown pin, and insert it. Now it's not going to come apart. Next thing that we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to reassemble the bolt and carrier, and that by far is the biggest pain in the ass to this process. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take this sleeve, right, and we are going to reinsert it into the carrier, into the very obvious looking channel for it. We're going to hang on to it, and we're going to insert the plunger and spring. Now you want to insert the plunger first. And believe me, I made this mistake like 100 friggin' times. But you insert the plunger first into its own little recess, and it sits there. Now the next thing that we're going to do, this kind of requires you to have 3 hands because you're hanging onto a couple of different things at once. But a couple of things to note: when you put this sleeve back on, you want the far right arm of the sleeve to hook onto the right side of the bolt lug that's right on the extractor. Reason being is that that cam pin floats in this little channel here, and that's pretty much how it's told to move and extract stuff. So what we're going to do is that we're going to insert this into the carrier. But what we're going to do when we do that is we're going to push the sleeve off the bolt slightly, because in order to engage your cam pin, you have to flip it upside down and use gravity for it. Now obviously if you just try to push the thing in and let the sleeve hang there, it's not going to come off because there's tension on the cam pin itself. So we're going to try and keep these apart, keep the bolt and carrier together at the same time, and then we're going to fit it into its own little recessed channel that you can see. So now this is kind of a huge pain, so don't be too frustrated with yourself, because I was ready to throw this friggin' thing across the room the first couple of times I did it. But when it goes into its own little channel, it is a big deal to make sure that you keep the bolt and its little sleeve apart. So therefore, when it inserts, you can see how this can be an enormous pain in the butt. Oh my god. And of course this is giving me tons of problems on camera. But anyway. Pretty much grab onto it. And once you have this sitting right here, all you really want to do is just kind of turn it upside down, either way that you want to do it, and then just kind of like throw it in the inverted direction. And you heard it click there, or at least I hope you did, because I did. And then from there it just kind of hangs on, and now it's in place. So reinserting this firing pin is not that big of a task, honestly, because you just make sure that it goes where it's supposed to, and as it's reinserting, you just turn it. Just make sure it's in its own little channel again, and then once it's in its own little channel, it'll rotate and lock. So there you go. That's your bolt, carrier, and firing pin. Once you have that in place, you're going to go ahead and grab your receiver really quick. When you grab your receiver, just kind of reinsert it into place. There are a pair of prongs that are going to push into here, and there are some internal springs. So when you insert it, what you want to do is, because you're going to hear it kind of fall into place, you just kind of want to push on it to make sure it's still under spring tension. And then you're going to grab your upper receiver, make sure that your takedown pin is all the way out, or it's not going to go on all the way. Reinsert the upper receiver, and once the upper is flush, you just kind of grab onto that pin and just kind of push it into place. My feet hurt. And once it's in place, you can just kind of rotate it over on its side and push on it until it locks into place. So it's not too bad. So there you go. Now that it's flush, your upper receiver is on. So now what you're going to do is you're going to lock your action to the rear again. Now that that's in place, you're going to go ahead and reconstruct your barrel. Now, it's important to insert the piston into the spring like so. And then you can go ahead and grab your barrel and insert it to where the flat portion of the spring is facing up towards the muzzle device. Set that down. Take this portion of your gas block, and you can see that that's really the one portion that is not blocked off for the most part, and line it up with this guy, So once you go ahead and do that, pull that out of the way, it'll slide back down in its own little spot, and then you can just kind of rotate it until it's back to where it's supposed to be in whatever gas setting you were using at the time. From there, it really is as simple a task as just kind of pushing that back down and having it lock over that. So when you're reinserting your barrel here, you're going to see a portion of your upper receiver kind of fall into its own little recess. Then once you do that, just kind of push down on it and it'll lock into place. Once you have that, you can go ahead and do your function check, which is pretty straightforward, and if you've done a military style function check, it's pretty easy. Just run your action forward, put it on safe, try to fire it. It should not. Put it on fire, press the trigger off, and once you've pressed the trigger off, run the action, reset, fire, and you can do this 5, 6, 7 times, whatever makes you comfortable. So there you go, guys. Here is a full and detailed field strip of the MSAR STG 556. What a pain in the ass.